Welcome to True Crime's Altar, where truth is laid bare and every lie is a slow prayer to ruin. Tonight, a wedding meant to seal a love story unraveled into a chilling revelation. In the hush of the mountains, a secret buried deep cracked open, leaving behind a silence only death could explain. This is the story of Nia Brooks and Kareem Ellis, a tragic reminder that secrets may haunt, but violence damns forever. On July 17, 2020, in the still town of Clearwood, South Carolina, a young couple named Kareem Ellis and Nia Brooks celebrated the first chapter of what seemed like a beautiful life ahead. They had just tied the knot in a quiet backyard ceremony, attended only by close friends and family under the warm sway of summer skies and live jazz humming through the dusk. To everyone watching, Kareem and Nia looked made for each other. They had been together for nearly 2 years. Kareem, 33, worked as a building inspector. Known for his quiet, grounded nature, he rarely raised his voice and often gave off the sense that nothing could rattle him. Neighbors and coworkers alike said he was steady, respectful, the kind of man who always kept his cool. Nia, 30, was a digital illustrator. She had moved to Clearwood from Savannah 4 years earlier and had since grown a successful career working from her apartment. To those who met her, Nia was warmth, full of spark, creativity, and an ease that made people feel seen. They had matched on a dating app in late 2018. From their first conversation, they clicked, bonding over their mutual love for photography, vinyl records, and long weekend drives. By the end of 2019, Kareem had proposed during a weekend trip to the coast. Nia said yes without a moment's pause. It was the kind of love people root for, the kind that feels safe, the kind you pray lasts. But all love demands truth. And the truth was, there was something Nia never told him. Something she had buried so deep, it felt like another lifetime. Nia was a transgender woman. Assigned male at birth, she had fully transitioned in her early 20s, socially, legally, and medically, before moving to Clearwood to begin fresh. In her new life, she chose privacy, not shame. She didn't lie, she simply lived. To her, she was just Nia. No prefix, no asterisk. When she met Kareem, something in her heart whispered that this could be real. But as their relationship deepened, so did the fear. Each time she considered telling him, she imagined him walking away, or worse, turning violent. In time, she decided silence was safer. She convinced herself that their love, their plans for the future, the way he held her, that all of it meant the past could stay gone. And when he slipped the ring on her finger, she told herself that love had finally outrun fear. After the wedding, Kareem surprised Nia with a honeymoon, a 6-day escape to the Ash Falls Ridge, a scenic stretch near the Blue Willow Mountains, a place Nia had long wanted to visit. They checked into a secluded rental cabin on July 19th, excited for quiet mornings and cool nights beneath the trees. But neither of them knew that this retreat, wrapped in stillness and sky, would soon become the scene of something unspeakable. What began in joy would dissolve in betrayal and end in blood. On the morning of July 20th, 2020, the world was still. The early sun warmed the hills around their cabin, painting gold over the misty green. Nia rose first, barefoot and soft-eyed, and cooked breakfast, scrambled eggs, avocado toast. Kareem brewed dark roast and scrolled through emails, despite swearing off work for the week. They ate on the deck, Nia humming under her breath, Kareem stealing glances between bites. Their plan for the day was simple: hike a nearby trail, catch dinner in the village, come back and sit beneath the stars. By 10 a.m., they were on the path, walking hand in hand, pausing often for pictures. Kareem carried a vintage film camera, Nia a journal and sketchpad. To anyone watching, they were the image of love. They talked about buying a house, maybe starting a family, maybe even moving somewhere coastal one day. Nia's face was lit with a peace she hadn't felt in years. In her mind, the past was gone. The risk had passed. But beneath the trees, Kareem was changing. Nia began to notice him drifting. His thoughts caught somewhere far from her words. At times, his eyes would linger too long, studying her like he was searching for something, like she was suddenly unfamiliar. He started asking strange questions about her teen years, old friends, even doctors she'd mentioned once in passing. She laughed him off at first, playing it casual, but a dull chill crept beneath her ribs. That evening, after dinner in a nearby village, the rain started to fall. Back at the cabin, Nia lit candles and played a quiet record. The mood was soft, romantic, but something had shifted. Kareem seemed distant, his smile brief, his touch colder. As they sat near the fireplace, wine half full, Kareem turned to her. "Is there something you haven't told me?" he asked, his voice even. Nia's heart jumped. For a second, time blurred. She smiled, steady but tight. "No, nothing," she said. He nodded. But the silence that followed was heavy and final. She felt it, something inside him had turned. And for the first time, she wondered if somehow he knew. That night, while Kareem slipped into the bedroom, Nia stayed behind, staring into the dying fire. But curiosity pulled her. She moved quietly toward the hall, where Kareem's voice leaked through the crack of the door. "She never told me," he said into the phone. "Can you believe that? Married me and kept something like that a secret." The truth, once buried, had now clawed to the surface. And in that moment, a man's love turned into judgment, and his judgment became danger. When truth is revealed too late, the heart has already chosen its course, whether mercy or mayhem. And when that course is hatred, the soul begins to rot from the inside out. Nia backed away from the door, the sound of Kareem's voice echoing like a warning bell inside her. She sank into the living room couch, hands cold, thoughts scattered. He knew. How he found out, she couldn't be sure. Maybe someone from back in Savannah. Maybe something digital she forgot to erase. But it didn't matter anymore. The truth, once unleashed, couldn't be crammed back into silence.
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
She debated whether to speak or flee, to confront or escape. But they were alone in the mountains, miles from help, the road slick with rain. And something in Kareem's silence tonight felt dangerous. Minutes later, Kareem emerged. His face was unreadable, his posture too calm. He sat across from her, elbows on knees, eyes locked. "You got anything you want to say?" he asked. Her throat was dry. Her heart screamed. "I was going to. I wanted to tell you," she whispered. "But I was scared." Kareem said nothing. He just stood up and walked out into the rain, leaving the door wide open behind him. Nia sat frozen in the candlelit quiet, the wind slipping into the cabin like a ghost. And for the first time, she wasn't sure if she would survive the night. Some truths come late, but some men arrive at rage early, and once it takes hold, love becomes a memory, and vengeance becomes gospel. The following morning, July 21st, the owner of the cabin, Mr. Lionel Price, made a call to the Clearwood County Sheriff's Department. His guests, Kareem and Nia Ellis, hadn't checked out as scheduled. Multiple calls had gone unanswered, and their car was still parked exactly where it had been since the 19th. Concerned, Price requested a welfare check. By 9:40 a.m., 2 deputies arrived at the property, the rain having turned the ground to thick clay. They announced themselves. "Sheriff's office," one of them called. No reply. The front door was slightly ajar, the interior eerily still. Inside, the living room remained neat. 2 mugs sat on the coffee table. A phone charger dangled from the wall. Nia's purse was untouched on the kitchen counter. But when the officers stepped into the bedroom, the silence cracked. There, at the foot of the bed, lay Nia, her body cold, her neck bruised. She had been strangled. No broken windows. No signs of forced entry. The violence had come not from outside, but from the one person she trusted most. Kareem was gone. Detectives and forensic teams arrived within the hour. Photos were taken, fingerprints lifted, the entire cabin turned into a scene of sorrow and methodical investigation. By the afternoon, the case shifted from missing persons to homicide, and Kareem Ellis was now the main suspect in the murder of his own wife, just days after they said "I do." Mr. Price told detectives that the couple had seemed happy upon arrival. The first couple of days were quiet, but investigators soon uncovered a different side of the story. A waitress at a local diner where the couple had dined on the 20th came forward. She remembered Kareem's mood that night. He was tense, barely ate, and kept pressing Nia with strange, personal questions that made her visibly uncomfortable. It felt off, the waitress recalled, like he was building up to something. Police then pulled Kareem's phone records. Several long calls stood out, on July 20th and again on the morning of the 21st. The calls were to a number registered to someone back in Savannah. That number led them to LaRon Stiles, a former acquaintance from Nia's past. Under questioning, LaRon admitted Kareem had contacted him unexpectedly, asking about Nia. At first, LaRon didn't think much of it. They talked casually. But by the second call, Kareem's questions had turned invasive, specific. Eventually, LaRon let it slip. He told Kareem that Nia was transgender, unaware that this information would set a deadly chain of events in motion. The tongue can be a blade, and truth, when handed to the wrong hands, can draw blood. Some confessions are not ours to give. With motive now established, the urgency shifted. Kareem had to be found. His car was still parked outside the cabin. His phone, wallet, and even toiletries had been left behind. The scene suggested he'd either vanished on foot or had help slipping away. On July 22nd, the search widened. Sheriff's deputies combed the nearby woods. Drones and tracking dogs were deployed. Flyers with Kareem's photo appeared across Clearwood and neighboring counties. Then, late that afternoon, a woman named Patrice Malloy, a hiker familiar with the Ash Falls trails, contacted police. She claimed to have seen a man matching Kareem's description the night of the 21st around 11 p.m., near a dirt path off Haven Trail, roughly 3 miles from the couple's rental cabin. But Kareem hadn't been alone. He was speaking with another man near a black pickup truck. Patrice described the second man as tall, dark-skinned, wearing a gray hoodie and sagging jeans. They were arguing about something, she said. It was weird that late at night. This changed the scope of the investigation. Kareem wasn't just on the run, he had help. Surveillance footage from a gas station off Route 82 confirmed the next step of the puzzle. In the early hours of July 22nd, a black pickup truck was seen heading west. The driver was alone, and it wasn't Kareem. The license plate traced back to Malik Gunn, a local mechanic with a long rap sheet, assault, gun charges, and parole violations. When brought in for questioning, Malik denied everything. But the facade cracked quickly. After just 10 minutes with investigators, he caved. He said Kareem had reached out to him through a mutual acquaintance, desperate and panicked. Kareem offered cash, a stack, Malik said, in exchange for help getting out of town after handling something private. But Malik hadn't expected what came next. "I ain't think he was gonna kill her," Malik muttered, voice low. "He just said he found out something wild about his wife. I thought it was a breakup thing, not this." When fear is fed by ego and anger is handed a roadmap, destruction walks in a man's shoes and carries no remorse. Malik confessed to picking Kareem up near the trail and driving him to a bus depot in Glen Haven, Tennessee, nearly 90 miles away. Surveillance cameras captured Kareem boarding a bus at 5:12 a.m. on July 22nd. Destination: Montgomery, Alabama. From here, the story turned national. Kareem Ellis had committed murder, and now he was running. But how far could he go? By the morning of July 23, 2020, the manhunt for Kareem Ellis was in full swing. Word of Nia's death and Kareem's escape had spread across state lines. His photo was now plastered across news outlets and social media under banners reading "Armed and Dangerous." Law enforcement in Alabama, Tennessee, and the Carolinas were on alert. The FBI had officially joined the case, lending manpower and resources. Authorities believed Kareem had at least a 48-hour lead, and that gap was widening. The bus from Glen Haven had arrived in Montgomery the afternoon of July 22nd. By the time officers reached the terminal, Kareem was long gone. No clear sightings had surfaced since. Meanwhile, new pieces of the puzzle were beginning to emerge. Detectives recovered several messages from Kareem's phone, conversations with LaRon Stiles. At first, they were short, curious, but the final exchange was colder. Appreciate you being real with me. I needed to know, Kareem had written. Laurent told investigators that Kareem's tone had changed drastically. It felt like he wasn't asking anymore, he said. It felt like he'd already decided what he was going to do. Back at the cabin, among Kareem's belongings, investigators found a note. It had been hastily scribbled on the back of a motel notepad and stuffed into a duffel bag left behind. The message read, "Love can't survive lies. If you ain't honest with me, what's the point? You made your choice. Now I made mine." It was all detectives needed to confirm what they feared. This wasn't a spontaneous act of rage. It had been forming, simmering, planned. When a heart refuses to bend, it breaks into sharp pieces. And when those pieces are turned outward, they don't just wound, they destroy. Public reaction was swift and fierce. Mia's face was everywhere, across hashtags, tribute videos, advocacy pages. Some mourned her as a victim of a hate crime cloaked in betrayal. Others, blinded by bias, argued that secrets justified rage. But for the detectives in Clearwood, one thing was beyond debate. A woman had been murdered in cold blood, and her killer had vanished into thin air. The pressure to find Kareem intensified. Then, on July 24th, a motel clerk in Holtsville, Alabama made a call that turned the tide. A man matching Kareem's description had checked in late the previous evening. Paid cash. No ID. Used the name Eric Baines. By the time officers arrived, the room was empty. The bed looked slept in. Fast food bags littered the trash. A prepaid phone sat on the nightstand, dead. In the bathroom, a fresh razor and new clothes, tags torn off. Receipts showed purchases made that morning at a nearby gas station. Kareem was close, but he was always one step ahead. With the burner phone now disabled, detectives feared he might vanish again. But everyone on the task force agreed. People running always slip. And Kareem, though careful, was not invincible. The next morning, July 25th, 7:20 a.m., a cashier at a corner gas station in Piermont, Georgia, a sleepy town skirting the Florida border, placed a 911 call. A man had come in just after sunrise, wearing a hoodie despite the heat, twitchy and quiet. Paid cash for supplies, water, snacks, a road map, and gas for a dark sedan with no tags. The clerk recognized the face from news reports. Kareem Ellis. Police responded immediately. By 8 a.m., checkpoints were being set up along highways and side roads. Local officers, State Patrol, and FBI agents flooded Paramount. Helicopters buzzed overhead. Patrol cars lined rest areas and backroad crossings. The net was closing. At 9:47 a.m., a state trooper spotted the dark sedan parked near a pine grove off Route 14, just outside a rest area. The engine was idling. The vehicle was empty. But nearby, sitting quietly on a bench facing the freeway, was Kareem Ellis. His hoodie was still up. His hands rested on his knees, and his eyes were fixed on the horizon as if he had already accepted what was coming. Officers approached with caution, weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them," one called. Kareem stood slowly, silent. He raised his hands. No fight. No words. Just surrender. Inside his backpack, police found $3,900 in cash, a prepaid phone, and a map with multiple routes to the Florida Keys and red circles drawn around various towns along the Gulf Coast, including 2 in Mexico. The plan had been clear: disappear for good. But it ended instead on a sun-baked roadside bench, with nothing but silence between him and the law. Sin rarely screams when it ends. It sighs. And in that silence, the full weight of what's been done settles into the bones. That afternoon, Kareem Ellis was formally charged with first-degree murder and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. He was immediately extradited to South Carolina to face trial for the death of his wife, Naya. Kareem's trial began on February 10th, 2021, inside the Clearwood County Courthouse. The courtroom was still, the weight of the case thick in the air. Prosecutors came prepared with a mountain of evidence that painted a chilling picture. There were Kareem's fingerprints at the scene, Malik Gunn's full confession about helping him escape, surveillance footage from the bus station, and the handwritten note found in his abandoned duffel bag. Witness after witness spoke. Forensic experts, detectives, friends of Nia, the waitress from the diner. Each detail drew a darker portrait of what had happened inside that cabin. And through it all, Kareem sat expressionless, hands folded, eyes distant. When asked why he took Nia's life, he answered plainly. "She should have told me the truth," he said. But the courtroom remained fixed on what mattered. Nia Brooks was gone, killed by the very man who vowed to protect her. And the truth she withheld was never a crime, only the response to it was. When love turns into control and truth is met with punishment, what you call love is no longer love. It's ego, cloaked in romance. And it kills. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury reached a verdict, guilty on all charges. Kareem Ellis was sentenced to life in prison without parole. He would never breathe free air again. Outside the courthouse, Nia's loved ones held each other, some in silence, others in quiet sobs. They spoke of her joy, her brilliance, her strength. She had worked so hard to rebuild her life, to live boldly and without fear. But in the end, fear found her anyway, through the one person she trusted most. By late 2022, a modest memorial was placed just outside the trailhead where she spent her final days. A bronze plaque reads, "In memory of Nia Brooks, a soul taken too soon. May honesty, compassion, and courage guide the hearts of those who remain." Her name lived on, in news headlines, advocacy forums, and in the shifting conscience of a country reckoning with how it treats truth, identity, and love. But let us never forget, Nia did not die because she was dishonest. She died because the man she loved chose hate over healing. To those listening now, if you ever find yourself in a place of betrayal, anger, or heartbreak, do not let those feelings become a weapon. Walk away. Seek help. Speak to someone. But never let pain write your story in blood. If you were moved by this story, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Do you believe this tragedy could have been prevented? Let's talk about it in the comments. Subscribe to True Crimes Altar for more real stories that echo deeper truths. And let us know, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe, stay wise. And remember, truth without love is cruelty, but love without truth can be fatal.